feel like Kobe in the fourth quarter.
This is the Dane Moore NBA podcast, and we are brought to you by Prize Picks. Coming at you Wednesday afternoon. It's March 11th. We are recording this between the two LA games. The Wolves lost by 14 to the Lakers last night, and they play the Clippers this evening. I'll be back on Thursday to discuss whatever happens in that Clippers game with Kyle. But today, I am joined by Britt, Robson, and Britt. As of today, the Wolves offense is in a rough place. Maybe they do bounce back against the Clippers this evening, though. They haven't played offense very well against the Clippers the two times they played them thus far this season. But even if they do bounce back against the Clippers, it's going to be on the heels of two of their roughest offensive performances of the season against the Magic and the Lakers. But I'd argue it goes back further than that. Since the All-Star break, the Wolves have played 9 games. They're 6-3 in those games. And they have a few good scoring games along the way. The wins against Portland and Toronto and even Denver was decent. But those were the games where the Wolves were really running, right? You know, those are the games they're getting out in transition. They've been bad in the half court all 9 games. The possessions where they're not getting out and running, they're just actually running offense against a set defense. They haven't scored more than a point per possession in any of the games since the All-Star break. Overall, even if you do include the transition, which has been good, they're still just 23rd in offensive rating since the All-Star break. What do you think is wrong with the Wolves offense right now?
I think it goes deeper than that. It was just a week ago, you guys, you and I were talking, and we were talking about whether the Wolves are the third best team in the Western Conference.
Yep.
And I was hesitant, and it just was on the heels of the conversation about how many minutes Slow-Mo would get. And I said, he won't get that many minutes. So that it was either that night or the day after they played Toronto, and it was the best game I think I've seen the Wolves play since the 23-24 season. Just fantastic. And I thought to myself, well, I didn't say Slow-Mo is going to get a lot of minutes. He seems to be a much bigger contributor than I thought. And I really resisted naming him the third best team in the West. And they certainly look like that at least.
Right.
But the reason for my hesitation is that this team is unreliable. It is, it could be their defense that has fallen apart as opposed to their offense. But I think a lot of it comes back to attitude, quite frankly. I think a lot of it comes back to the fact that they played one of their best games of the season. And I don't think it was a coincidence. They followed it up with 2 of their worst games of the season all year long. And I know, there's a tendency to treat the season too hysterically or hyper-dramatically. And it's entirely possible that they'll come out and, beat the Clippers. I'm almost certain they'll beat the Warriors. Maybe play OKC tough again the next night, and everybody will forget about this little blip.
But should we? Are we forgetting too often?
That's the thing. I think that, first of all, again, context. If they were to continue their current winning percentage, they'd have the 4th best winning percentage in Timberwolves franchise history. So that's not bad, But they have continually been unreliable in terms of securing their gains and taking a step forward. They secure their gains and then they seem to take a step back most of the time.
Right.
And specific to the offense, I think it's either isolation or transition, as you were talking about. What has dried up is the ball movement to get the open man the shot. How often do we see that against either Orlando or the Lakers? Orlando is a pretty decent offense. The Lakers normally do not.
Defense, you mean?
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
The Lakers have a terrible defense as a rule. Now they have a couple of guys who are decent on defense. Marcus Smart obviously did a good job the other night. And, a couple of other guys who you could say, Laravius seems to be a guy, at the very least, is diligent. But they just got outworked last night. They got out hustled, loose balls, offensive rebounds, and they also play stupidly a lot. Rudy Gobert had 1 shot, and yet they were well over 60% from 2-point range. The paint was open to some extent.
You had to connect to Rudy in the paint against that Lakers defense that was basically playing zone. Packing it in there. They're in all the gaps. I mean, it's the same thing that the Clippers did. And we talked about after that game of like, well, what, it's the Ant. Why do you want me to pass? This is what I do. It's the same. He was facing that same Clippers defense, and that Clippers where they're loading up and they're bringing the weak side guy all the way over into the lane. They're loading there. And the Wolves had one of their worst offensive games of the season against that Clippers team, because they're not good against that, or that type of defense is requiring you to get into the middle and then either find shooters or find Rudy at the rim. And I think the thing the Lakers were really leaving open in that last game, or in that game last night, was Rudy there. But you still need to like get into the crowd almost and then find Rudy in the lob for the lob there or at the rim. And, that's not a high percentage connection as is. And it was getting deflected and it was condensed even more in there. Like the Lakers set a net. That's what their defense was for the Wolves to like stumble in. Ant or Julius are going to play into a crowd here, or a net that makes it messier to try to involve Rudy Gobert in the game. Like, you're right that Rudy was out there and Rudy was often open underneath the hoop, but you need execution against the zone and the way that the Lakers were playing defense to capitalize on that.
Well, they've never been a consistently good pick and roll team because they don't do it a lot. But pick and roll obviously is one of the ways, that you deal with that type of defense. I think you force them to cluster in some way, shape, or form. And
it also gives Rudy a purpose other than catching and finishing. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, he doesn't need to be the play finisher.
Last night.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, and like 15 rebounds. He knew his job was to get rid of the ball once he had it. I don't know how many of those were offensive rebounds. But I think a lot of it just comes from diligence, play-to-play diligence. When you do pick and roll, you set your pick. When you are passing the ball, you make a crisp pass and then move without the ball. You force the team to do a lot more reacting than they had to do the other night.
I agree. Yeah.
And in terms of shot selection, I mean, say what you will, but if you make over 60% of your twos, then you're finding a way to get inside that trap or that net. I came up with Jade McDaniels was 3 for 4 from 2-point range, 0 for 5 from 3. Randall, 4 for 6 from 2, 1 for 5 for 3. Nas, 5 for 6 from 2, 1 for 5 from 3. Io, 6 for 6 for 2, 0 for 2 from 3. Those four guys, 2 for 17 from 3, 18 for 22 from 2. Now, some of that obviously wasn't transition, what you were talking about, but not, and there were also occasions where it was not. And so, and then you had Ant and Ragu, who were combined 1 for 8 from 2 and 3 for 16 from 3. They just weren't going to score at all. But there is an emphasis on 3-point shooting, and the effective field goal percentage, points per play, however you want to do it, bears it out. The Timberwolves in the last couple of games, and for a while now, are testing that theory because Rudy is a 70% shooter. When he finally gets the ball and gets to put it in the basket. Yeah, there's probably knocked 10% of that off of the turnovers and the miscues or whatever. But it's still pretty good. It's still 60% true shooting percentage. It's just not a smart. They did not look smart and they did not look motivated. It's one thing to play intelligently, and it's another thing to play hard, and you obviously want both at the same time. We haven't seen either in the last 2 games. And that's on the coaching, and it's on the leadership of Randall and Ant, who I think kind of are emblematic of that stop and go intensity and that stop and go intelligence.
Well, I want to talk about the 3-point shooting, and let's relate this to Ant too, because I think we got to talk about, Ant's 2 of 15 in this game. We got to get into why. I always wonder with like 3-point shooting, do you chalk that up to variance, or is something leading to those threes that they're taking being lower percentage ones, because we got 24% from three against the Lakers and 23% against the Magic. Now, if you want to tell me, and you made a good argument that, they're just missing good ones, then we don't have to have a lot of concern about what these two games are. I felt watching the games that this wasn't just a 3-point variant sort of thing. And I do have concerns about the health of the offense. And I think it's about what threes are getting generated or not getting generated. And again, specific to the Lakers, like, you need to kind of, Finch's always says, like, don't play in a crowd, right?
Right.
You almost have to kind of dare the crowd when you're playing against a zone in that sort of way, if you want to drive it, or
that's right. You want to create a crowd to create space elsewhere.
And I felt like I haven't rewatched. It was a very, very late game. So I'm just going off of like live watching.
And it was really hard to rewatch.
Right. Yeah. I don't know.
Well, you can go back, but you can't. It isn't as easy as DVR.
Yeah, that's true. So neither of us have rewatched the game that ended at 1 a.m. basically last night. But it felt like this team needs to get back to testing like the dexterity of the defense and look and having the goal be to kick. Like, doesn't it feel to you that the corners have kind of abandoned this team as like a major pursuit? I remember, a couple years ago with Ant, we were talking about defenses loading to him or presenting to or whatever. And it was about, it was kind of step one of that initiation. Get to the middle, have the low man commit over, find the guy in the corner. And I feel like, and this isn't just an Ant specific thing, but like that doesn't feel like the goal as much of like dragging in the defense to find the open corner shooter there.
Right.
And it's more so I'm driving and denting the defense, maybe playing in a crowd and getting myself in trouble, or I'm pulling up and I'm taking a mid-range shot here.
Right.
And I mean, we've talked about how valuable Ant's mid-range shot has been. We've talked about the situational value of playing through Julius in the mid-range there, but it needs to be like part and parcel with also tapping into what your team is really, really good at, which is 3-point shooting of everybody who plays other than Rudy Gobert.
Right.
And it feels to me like they're getting lost in that space that they sometimes really punish, which is creating advantage situations. But man, it feels like when you get a locked in opponent like the Lakers last night, who were clearly bringing more effort on defense than they normally do.
Agreed.
That the Wolves offense really needs to work harder to generate better looks. And I don't have confidence, or I have concern that this offense, despite being 10th or 11th in overall offense on the season, has the ability to really stay at that level even come playoff time, because I do think it gets bogged down by isolation. And yeah,
I think if they play smarter, you mentioned the corners. The corners are good for two things. Obviously, the corner threes. Well, three things: the corner threes, the up fake, and the drive off the corner three, because the closeout's usually a weak side guy and they don't come over, or cuts.
And team does not cut.
This team is not cutting, especially from the baseline.
Yeah.
And what's ironic about this is, like last night, Slow-Mo is like a zone breaker. You put him in the middle of the floor, that's his thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then he loves to hit. He did hit, I think it was either Dante or Io on a baseline cut, a backdoor or whatever. But those were few and far between. And the idea of the Wolves getting cuts and doing that, it just isn't there as much. Also, I do think, whether they're good or bad shots, this habit of taking the three. When Chris Finch first came here, he started saying, we need people to take the shots that they're good at. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And people were, well, since February 1st, which goes back 2 weeks, 3 weeks before the All-Star break, Jaden McDaniels is 34% from three.
This is all since February 1?
Since February 1st.
Yep.
Julius Randle, 13 for 62, 21% from three. Julius Randle is 21% from three since February 1st. Naz Reid 18 for 67, 26.9% from three. Remember how great he was in January?
Yeah.
Then that shut off. And what's crazy about that is, particularly in the case of Jaden and Nas, and Julius for that matter, although Julius, everybody knows he wants to go anyway, but Nas is good off the bounce. Jaden has become good off the bounce. If you have a wide open catch and shoot three, go for it. But some of these plays are either contested or late in the clock. It gets to the general offensive malaise that this team has right now, that they still, Randall and Ant's decision-making has slowed down again, which is always a problem.
Mm-hmm.
When those guys are quick with their decisions, maybe even especially with each other, it's really, really helpful. Because if they both touch the ball during a possession, that maybe leaves room for one other guy to touch the ball.
Sure.
Unless they move the ball. So a lot of it is ball movement. Some of it is who is taking the shot and when and why are they taking the shot. And to me, what I have begun to think about the Timberwolves in the 25-26 season is, are they locked in or not? Because so much of what we're talking about seems smart or stupid depending on how locked in they are.
Yeah.
Almost anything we say, that doesn't make sense. Well, if they're locked in, it'll probably work.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll say, well, this is what they should do. But if they're not locked in, it doesn't really matter.
Right.
It really is an attitude thing.
So what do we do with that?
What does Chris Finch do with it?
Yeah.
I mean, that's really the question, isn't it?
Yeah. I'm putting plenty of the offense last night on Finch.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, the patience level has become too long.
Yeah.
In my opinion. His top guys have really high ceilings and really annoying floors. And can you get the ceilings without the floors?
Mm-hmm.
It's beginning to be time to try to find out. And maybe what Finch is banking on is when the games really mean something, like in the postseason, that won't be an issue. But if they're 2 games out of the play-in right now,
mm-hmm.
they are 2 games behind the Suns who have the tiebreaker. I mean, 2 games ahead of the Suns who have the tiebreaker. So they could find themselves playing the Clippers to see if they get the 7th seed, or having to play the 8th seed for the 8th seed. Either way, getting the Spurs and or the Thunder in the first round. So the games do mean something right now. And Finch, when he came back from the All-Star break, did say some games will count double. Well, that was true of Denver, and they won that. It was a really well-played game. This was the second one like that counted double because they were in that group of 6. And they lost it.
I want to talk a little bit more about the standings and stuff, because there has been a shift since we moved there. Cooper, my producer, is on vacation, so I'm going to do the ad breaks live here. Record them if that's all right. Today's show is brought to you by Treasure Island Resort and Casino, and this Sunday, March 15th, the Timberwolves are hosting a watch party at Treasure Island for that Wolves Thunder game. Starts at noon. Marnie Gellner will be hosting the watch party. They do a bunch of giveaways while that's going on. I know at the last one, they give away a bunch of stuff. I remember they gave away a signed Anthony Edwards jersey at the last one. The Wolves host the watch party. And then afterwards, after the game's over, Chris Hine and I will get on stage and we'll do kind of a immediate reaction live show. I'm going to need to be a little bit more locked in on the game than I normally am there, but we'll do that at Treasure Island right away afterwards. Like when Britt and I do them, we'll bring an extra microphone. We'll have people ask questions there. But that's this Sunday. The game's at noon. They're serving free breakfast. We'll be there at 11. Hope to see you there. You can visit ticasino.com for more details. Today's show is also brought to you by Prize Picks. We'll do a quick Prize Picks lineup for tonight's Wolves Clippers game. I was looking at it. it's not Donovan Mitchell. I'm reading this here. Kawhi Leonard and Anthony Edwards. I think both teams are going to be, both the Clippers and the Wolves are going to be trying to take those guys away as scorers. So what did I put down here? I have Anthony Edwards to have more than 3.5 assists and Kawhi Leonard to have more than 2.5 assists. That Kawhi number, I was like, whoa, that's low. And then we throw an extra one in there. Jaden McDaniels gets a dunk, more than 0.5 dunks. I feel like Jaden dunks all the time. We'll throw that one in there. That'll be our prize picks lineup for today for the Wolves Clippers game. There's always something going on over at Prize Picks. Now, a lot more you can do. You can pick against the spread. You can do futures, all that stuff as well on the teams tab. If you don't yet have a Prize Picks account, all you got to do is put in the promo code Dane. When you sign up, you'll receive $50 in lineups when you play that first $5 lineup. It's prizepicks.com, the Prize Picks app, using promo code Dane. All right, Britt. That's I think there's some more we can hit on from the offense from yesterday's game, but what you were talking about with the standings a little bit. The record, like compared to the other teams in their group now, is bad across the board. I mean, yes, they've beaten Oklahoma City twice in 3 games. They beat the Spurs twice in 3 games. Obviously, they have one more against Oklahoma City, but they have the tiebreaker with the Spurs. Not going to be relevant. They could have it with Oklahoma City, but all the other teams, man, Houston, they're 0-1 against. They have 2 more to go against them. Denver, they're 1-3, lost the tiebreaker there. And then against the Lakers, they're 0-3 this season. No more games against them. They've lost the tiebreaker there. I still sort of stand by what I was saying last week, where I think those other 3 teams might fear playing the Wolves in the first round more than the Wolves might fear any of those teams. But it is getting to the point where it's like the Wolves need to win a lot of games the rest of the regular season,
right,
to be to beat these teams in the standings, to have home court in a series, which I think is important. Like, to go into a series against Houston, Denver, or LA without home court advantage and think you're going to win is a little arrogant, you know? Right. You're not a heavy favorite there against any of those teams. If you're coming off the road,
you're 1-7.
Yeah, right. You're
you're 1-7. Yeah,
1-7. So they're going to be.
You won 1 out of the 8 games against those teams so far this year.
1 out of the 8 games. So you're going to be 1-10 against those teams, or 3-7, somewhere in there. You're going to have lost between 90 and 70% of your games against those teams. Right. So I don't know. Yeah, it's an unfortunate slip, but they don't deserve. I mean, and the 3 spot with a bullet, which I was kind of moving towards giving them when you and I talked a week ago.
The other thing, and I don't mean to pile on this, but the injuries those other teams have faced compared to what the Wolves have faced has been, there's just a lot more resourcefulness on those other teams. They've learned how to be resourceful.
Yeah. Like they do a multitude of things. The Wolves don't do a multitude of things.
Well, yeah. It used to be that, I mean, and especially after they got Io and slow-mo, you have a guy who's really good in the half court and a guy who's really good in transition. And depending on how you want to structure your bench, you can match up pretty well against the weaknesses of other teams. And by the way, I think Kyle Anderson has played really well, but they're like minus 22 in his 30 minutes. It's a weird situation because he seems to be playing well, but the team in general doesn't seem to be playing well around him when he's in the game. You know,
the weird sort of broken lineups.
Yeah.
He's coming in weird spots. Like I wrote down interesting Anderson subs. Came in for Randall in the first quarter, so it was Reed, Anderson, McDaniels in the front court. It was just one big out there. Mm-hmm. They used him in that iteration. You normally have 2 of Gobert, Randall, Reed.
Offensive rebounds by the Lakers happened in that time.
Could have been. Yeah, this was the first quarter, end of the first quarter. Yeah, they did have a bunch of offensive rebounds. Yeah. Then Io picked up his 3rd foul midway through the second quarter.
That's right.
And Kyle Anderson came in. You were kind of like, huh. Put him out there with both Gobert and Randall.
Yeah.
You know, so that's Anderson at the 3 alongside 2 other kind of non-shooters. Right. So Finch is like, whatever, we'll play him there. He came in for the final 90 seconds of the first half. I mean, some of that was kind of Io plays there, but he was like, well, Io has 3 fouls, bring Kyle back in. You know, I mean,
I think he really does believe that this guy's a Swiss Army knife who you can plug in anywhere. And to some extent that's true, but it does ignore the fact that he is better in circumstances and not as good in other circumstances. Now,
which I think contributes to the plus minus is what we're talking about. Yeah.
And I think if Jaden were playing better, Jaden McDaniels, among all the players on the team, and I'm a stan, I love Jaden McDaniels. He's bad. He's been bad the last 2 games. I mean, he had a silly goaltending call after a foul had already been called on the shooter.
Some frustration lashing out of
a few things, though. I mean, not just that. And it was he missed another 3. Yeah. I mean, he's been so bad. He's like 1 for 16. He's in one of those 3-point droughts.
It's because
the camera showed him the camera showed him after missing one of the 3s, just briefly. He went, fuck. I mean, you could just tell he's just, you know, and he's a seether, you know, and we know that oftentimes improves his game. We've talked about this. You initiated that conversation. The anger of Jaden McDaniels is a motivating factor, but
I think it's frustrated is what he's been the last few, and he gets frustrated when he gets clipped by screens.
Fouls. I mean, these fouls that Austin Reeves gets a crazy whistle, you know, Austin Reeves gets the thigh brushing call. I mean, a thigh brushing call in the NBA is bullshit. Come on. You know, unless you're really making some contact, NBA players know they're going to get hit in the torso area a lot.
Well, he's one of those players like Brunson, like Shea, who knows that's getting called if he acts accordingly.
Right.
You know, it's not of the.
So, I mean, and Jaden got victimized at least once on one of those. And obviously on Luka, another guy who certainly has the ball in his hands more than anybody in the NBA and therefore knows what whistles happen and what don't. But he has been bad at both ends of the court, and he is a key, kind of an underrated key piece, but he is a key piece. And, you know, he just has not been 34% shooting from February 1st. I mean, if you knock that down to like the last 8 games or something, he's been back to his old Jaden McDaniels style offense, you know, which is less of a 3-point shot, a average 2-point shooter, and his assists have not been high. So I think that's a source of concern. Obviously, he does not call his own number or make himself as much of a presence in the offense if Ant and Randall are on the floor, which is always my call to get him with lesser personnel on offense so he can shine more. But I don't know. Wouldn't call that a chicken or egg thing. I think right now he's bad regardless of the circumstance he's in. And I think it's a slump. I don't think it's.
Yeah, it's coming off of such a heater from 3 right before that too,
exactly.
You know.
Yeah, he's had some games that are just, you know, he had the 5-block 29-point or whatever it was, you know, the big, but he has not been the kind of motivating glue force that he's been most of the season. And that hurts. Nas and Rudy, this is an interesting stat since February 1st. Nas, 26 assists, 21 turnovers. Rudy, 26 assists, 20 turnovers. Their assist to turnover ratio is almost exactly the same.
Jeez.
Steals, Nas 13, Rudy 12. Blocks, Nas 18, Rudy 20. It's almost the same line.
Yeah.
Except that, you know, Rudy is a stalwart on defense and Nas spreads the floor with his offense, at least when he's not hitting 27% for a month and a half.
Yeah.
But it is interesting. If Nas' stats are very, very comparable to Rudy's on offense, that's not a good thing.
Yeah. Well, what you're describing specifically with Jaden is streakiness. Yeah. But like I think it's kind of like a slump for a hitter in baseball.
Right. I agree.
Where it's not it's on again and it's off again.
Right.
But there's normally a diagnosable thing that gets a hitter out of their slump, right? And I feel like with Jaden too, it's not just we can point to some things other than just the 3-point percentage that also feel off for him. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And he needs to get those things and confidence. I think it's confidence.
Right.
I mean, he had those 2 games against Memphis that when they played them back to back, where it was just extremely confident, making 4 or 5 threes a game, and it switches the other direction. And I think some of that's on Jaden to, you got to create some buffer there to not be one or the other. But I don't think the offense that they run does him any favors either, which is so Ant and Julius related. I think the style of the offense contributes to streakiness from the role players. Jaden McDaniel's stat lines are very clearly streaky. Naz Reid's are very clearly streaky. Dante DiVincenzo's are very clearly streaky. Why? Mm-hmm. Maybe they're just streaky players, and Dane, they're just not good enough to be starters or whatever, to not be streaky. But I do think, but in my opinion, it's representative of something else.
I'll tell you what else is streaky is the Wolves' points off turnovers. And I think there's a relationship there.
Sure.
I mean, Jaden probably gets more points off turnovers than any person on the team. And I would bet that Dante and Naz are right in that mix too. And last I looked, it was late in the fourth quarter. I don't know what eventually wound up. Points off turnovers were 20-2 in favor of the Lakers last night.
Jeez.
They had 2 points. They had no points off turnovers in the first half. The Lakers had 2 turnovers in the first half.
Yeah, they barely turned it over, period.
Yeah. 6 in all. I did see that. But points off turnovers, I know, were single digits and probably not much more than that. And that hurts Jaden, Naz, and Dante. Dante, think of all the times he pulls up for a 3 in transition. Think of all the times Jaden does that little giant walk dance that goes into either a banker or a rocking chair floater in transition. I when I did a column a week or 2 ago, whatever it was, the Wolves had the greatest disparity in terms of how many points off turnovers they get in wins and how many they get in losses, which means it's a big factor in their winning.
Yeah.
And some of that is opportunistic, being opportunistic. Some of that is playing good enough defense to generate the turnovers. And a lot of that, frankly, is where, Randall and Ant come in. I was curious. I mean, is Randall hurt? We've heard about a bad back and some other things. Or did Finch pull him last night in a rare show of discipline? Because he didn't play very much down the stretch.
Yeah, in the second half, I've just seen that before.
Yeah,
it's not unprecedented.
Right, it's not unprecedented, but it's not common.
You're right. I wasn't at the game. No. I didn't hear anything come out from it.
We didn't get to see any of the post game. We probably read John Krasinski's feed because I know he was there.
Right. I'm not gonna fall into those or Cole and Pax, because there's been a lot of, there's just been a lot of excuses sort of thrown out there.
Oh, the back thing, yeah.
Right. Yeah, and I'm not going to assume every Julius Randle game that's bad is associated with that.
He has a history of doing things. He has chronic vices. And so when we see the chronic vices, we can't say, well, that's because of the back, because the back is not chronic.
Mm-hmm.
The vices are.
Yeah.
So maybe it's exacerbated, but I agree. I mean, I had heard the
back was really bad in the Clippers game.
Uh-huh.
And then I hadn't heard about it.
Well, and the thing is the only reason I mention it is because I don't want to start Finch benches Randall. Well, there could be a very easy reason for that, especially given Finch's inordinate fondness for Randall. So it was just interesting to me that Randall got 28, 26 minutes or whatever it was, which is low for him.
When weirdly, like in the first half, when the Wolves offense was completely terrible, and so was the Lakers, was 45-45 at halftime. You looked at that box score at that moment, and Julius Randle was kind of the only thing working.
Yeah.
For them too. So
Well,
yeah, I guess question for Finch.
Let me say about that too. The Lakers were missing wide open looks in the first quarter.
Yeah.
That was a terrible game by the Wolves on defense the entire game. When Luka had the post-game interview, he said that might have been the worst half of basketball we played
I saw that
all season. Well, and they were tied. And I kind of agree with him. They looked awful. They had shots.
Right.
You know, guys who normally are really good shooters were missing wide open threes. They were 0 for 15 at one point from three-point territory. You know, so and it wasn't that the Wolves had just shut off their water from there.
Right.
It was both teams were missing easy shots.
I thought what they did, they were doing a good job against Luka specifically at the beginning of the game.
I agree.
But
because Luka wanted to get him. Luka often wants to get his own shot going before he starts dishing.
Yeah.
And if the scouting report is that, I think they defensed that well because they were allowing Luka to dish the ball, but they were not allowing him easy shots.
Right. Let's grab another break here. Let y'all know that today's show is brought to you by our friends over at Falling Knife Brewing Company. And Falling Knife is staying open late for these West Coast games. They stayed open after midnight for last night's game against the Lakers. We'll be doing the same for Wolves Clippers this evening. They play the Warriors on Friday night. That's a 9 p.m. game. They'll be open late for that as well. You know, it's just 100% the place if you're texting your buddies to watch the Wolves game somewhere that you should go to. Great beer, but they also always have these games and sound on in the tap room. Again, Friday night, 9 p.m. tip against the Warriors. Game will be on at Falling Knife. They're also doing Survivor trivia at Falling Knife this Sunday at 5. I've actually said to you, Britt, that I'm a new Survivor fan. I've started watching a couple of seasons. I think I'd be bad at trivia because I know there's people out there who are crazy, watched every season. But I am sad I will not be there on Sunday for Survivor trivia at Falling Knife. But I caught that they're doing Survivor trivia. Dan didn't even text me because I follow Falling Knife on Instagram, and every week they put up their weekly schedule of what's going on in the tap room. So, you know, if Wolves games don't work for you or you like to watch Wolves games at home alone, there's other stuff going on at Falling Knife too that we'd love if you supported. So whether it's for a Wolves game or Survivor trivia, check out Falling Knife Brewing Company in Northeast Minneapolis. Let's talk a little bit about the Lakers as a playoff opponent for this team, because they are 0-3 against them. The first game of the season that they played them October 24th was the huge Luka game. He has 49 there, overwhelmed Jaden and the Wolves defense. The second time they played the Lakers was October 27th.
Right.
It's both in October though. So the first four games or whatever of the season, Austin Reeves, no LeBron in that game, no Luka. Austin Reeves takes over, beats the Wolves at home. And then last night, which is 5 months later or whatever, but they are 0-3 against this team. And I went back and rewatched that first game yesterday when they played Luka, and you know, watching that, remembering the Reeves game, didn't go back and rewatch that. And then watching that game last night, like, this is a team that's really handled this Wolves team in the 3 times that they've played them this season. We've kind of scoffed off the Lakers at times.
Well, their defense has been terrible against a lot of other teams.
Yeah.
I mean, whenever I watch the Lakers on League Pass, it feels like they're just trading baskets. They're high-scoring games, and Reeves he's having a really good year.
Yeah.
Marcus Smart is really important to them. He gives them some grit that, you know, Dorian Finney-Smith in his brief cup of coffee there, you know, had done.
Sure. He's been problematic for the Wolves and every time they played him.
Yeah. And so
irritates Ant. I think that's a piece of it.
And draws charges at just the right time.
Sure.
You know, he had 2 last night that were both kind of well-timed.
Good to see a charge in a Wolves game, because you never never see the alternative.
That's right. Yeah, God forbid. The Lakers, I would be interested to see the Wolves get up for the Lakers the way they get up for the Thunder and the Spurs.
I kind of expected they would.
I thought if there was a time for it, it would have been last night, right? Coming off a terrible loss to Orlando, you have essentially 2.5 days off because that was a day game on a Saturday, and you played on Tuesday night. So Sunday, Monday, 2.5 days. And the Lakers, I know, had played at least once in that interim. So they had less
played the Knicks.
time.
Yeah, I watched that.
So it was, and 0-2, obviously they couldn't get the tiebreaker back, but it was similar to the Denver game last Sunday, a week ago Sunday, whatever. They were playing for a spot in the standings at that point. And Finch's dictum of, these games count double, all kinds of reasons why they should have come out crisp. And again, I repeat, they played stupidly and they played lethargically. And if I'm Finch, I'm trying to figure out what motivator to use, carrots or the stick, whatever, because this team enjoys itself too much when they do well. And that has to stop. They are not good enough to let opportunities pass. You generate momentum through consistent performance.
Right.
And they stop their own momentum a lot over the course of the season.
As do the Lakers, as do the Nuggets, as do the Rockets. They have a time. I'm not even poo-pooing it. I'm saying it more relevant to the how they position themselves against those other teams. A lot of those other teams can point to injuries a little bit more than the Wolves can. But yeah, I mean, we're looking at a real possibility of the Wolves playing the Lakers in the first round again.
Yes.
One way or the other. Yeah. And it's definitely possible that it is on the road here as the 5 or 6 seed. And even the Lakers, if you have them the lowest of the group, but behind Minnesota, Houston, and Denver, if they do have home court, I don't feel like they deserve to be underdogs in a series against any of those teams, and certainly against the Wolves. I think this is more of a concerning playoff matchup than we anticipated. At least that's how I just feel after. Maybe that's a little reactive to yesterday, but I did watch both of those games,
right?
And it just they felt outmatched at both of the games in LA, which was the first one of the season, and then the one last night.
I agree.
The Reeves one, shouldn't have lost to Austin Reeves, but that's probably not representative of
out too far. He split the defense, hit the floater.
Yeah.
But at the same time, in that position at home against the team, maybe I'm just investing in this too much, but they handled the Lakers. They embarrassed the Lakers in the playoffs last year. And I think that stuck with them a little too much, I think that, they want the Thunder because the Thunder embarrassed them, and they want the Spurs because of Wemby and all that stuff.
I get what you're saying. In his head, feels like maybe he's conquered that one already.
Exactly. Yeah. And like when you had talked about top 3, when we had that conversation,
keep putting it in my face.
Well, no. What I'm saying is that if we're talking ceilings, I don't think it's even a conversation.
Sure.
I think that this team's ceiling is the 3rd best team in the Western Conference. I don't think there's any debate about that. I mean, I would debate. I don't think that Denver, as good as Denver can be, has the defense that the Wolves can have when they have that ceiling. And I don't think Houston has the breadth of skill sets that the Wolves can flash when they're hitting their ceiling. And the Lakers certainly don't have the defense. Marcus Smart is great, and they played scrappy defense last night. But the Timberwolves have Rudy Gobert, Jaden McDaniels, Ayo Dosunmu, Kyle Anderson, and Ant when he's engaged. Dante DiVincenzo is a good defender on occasion.
I
Although he
hear what you're
wasn't last
saying
night.
about the Lakers not being a good defensive team overall, but we know that this is how they will guard the Timberwolves. That zone defense are just loaded heavy into the gaps. They did it the entirety of the series against them. It is JJ Redick is showing his cards of like,
I agree.
Our plan is that we are just going to take away these driving lanes from Edwards and Randall, specifically Edwards, who's initiating it there, and make them beat us with IQ and ball movement, which the Wolves did in the playoffs before the first round matchup against them last year when they had 6 days off in advance of it. Yeah, they repped it out over and over and over again against that Lakers defense. So now do you go, well, if you play them in the first round and they've had this time to rep it out against how the Lakers are going to do it, are they going to beat them? I guess you can point to that before, but it's a little concerning to me that they couldn't tap back into that. It's
one big difference too.
Okay.
The much derided Aiden as opposed to Jackson Hayes last year.
Sure.
Aiden has played really well.
He's played better than
played
Jackson
really
Hayes.
Well.
Yeah.
You know, well, I mean, he had a double-double at halftime last night.
He's been playing well recently.
And I think he's been playing, I don't know what his plus-minus stats are, but whenever I watch him on League Pass, when Aiden is on the court, they play well. You know?
Yeah, I mean, it's a more functional body there. I think
I think he's underrated at this point.
I'm just kind of looking up some of his numbers here. Yeah.
Should say.
Well, I don't have his. I'm just looking up EPM, and it has him about average on offense and on defense this year overall. But what you brought it up was in the context of Jackson Hayes, and so you should be talking about Ayton positively in the context of Jackson Hayes.
Yes,
you know, and that is a difference in this series
because if you do run that kind of zone, you do have to be able to recover to Rudy or get out to the corners or whatever. You know, and Jackson Hayes is a chicken with his head cut off on defense most of the time.
With the chicken with his head cut off, or with that chicken with his head cut off, put on the bench.
Right.
The Wolves outside of game 5 when Rudy had 27 and 24, when the Lakers completely ignored him as a last-ditch effort. Because Rudy didn't do anything in the first 4 games of that series for the same reason. So, I mean, yes, they overcame that defense, the Lakers, JJ Redick, all of that a year ago in 5 games. Took care of it easily.
Right.
But there were some concerns in that matchup as it was going on that I don't think the Wolves have totally addressed.
Right.
And the Lakers do at least have 8 in here. And they have Luka, who's a lot more acclimated to the Lakers system than he was a season ago. And the Wolves don't have a lot for Luka. Not because Jaden isn't one of the best guys at guarding Luka, but nobody really has a lot for Luka, you know?
Right.
And that's an issue on the other side of the ball, too, that Luka's probably going to get his in a playoff series.
And they had Nah for Austin Reeves.
That's a good point. Yep.
You know, which would be Io, you would think.
It was Io last night. A lot. I remember writing that down at one point. I mean, I'm not saying like just because of this game now the Lakers are heavy favorites in it or anything, but I'm talking about if we consider the standings and that it's very possible that the Wolves are on the road for that series. I don't know. It just happened again. They just got beat by that team.
Right.
Tough in a game that really mattered. And I think that has to shift our belief in how well they would match up against the Lakers.
The only counterpoint I would bring up is that I do think that they beat themselves as much as they were beaten last night. They're in a trough, and I hate to keep coming back to this. If the Wolves are on their game, everything changes, and then when they're not, everything doesn't change. And so the Lakers should have their attention by now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, 3 games, only one of them close. And last night's game could have been a lot worse if the Lakers hit some first quarter shots. The Wolves were not ready to play defense the entire night. So, and all that said, would I rather play the Lakers instead of the Nuggets or the Rockets? Maybe, you know? And that's what's crazy. They have 16 games left. 5 of them include 2 with Detroit, 2 with Houston, and 1 with Boston with Tatum back.
Mm-hmm.
That's a third of the games that are going to be interesting. Will they get up for those games, and will that light a fire under them for the rest of the schedule? I don't know about this team anymore. It's hard to, like, is a rough schedule a good thing or a bad thing for this team? Losing to Orlando at home, at the end of a 6-game winning streak, and then laying an egg against the Lakers. And this Clippers team beat them thoroughly at one point. Now they lost, they won the other one without Kawhi, but that was also a hard-fought game.
Sure.
So tonight is far from guaranteed. It could be a 3-game losing streak. If the Suns win, they're 1 back. And the Suns own the tiebreaker.
Yeah.
Now the Suns, Dylan Brooks is out. I think their center, Williams, just went out. So they've got their issues.
I think the Wolves are going to finish in the top 6 for sure. I think all those teams
I don't think
are.
that's for sure. But
Yeah, okay.
I think they are.
Yeah, maybe for sure. Is a little
it's
too much.
If Phoenix gets hot, you're right after that. I mean, the
Mhm.
Clippers are 500.
Yeah.
And the Warriors and the Trailblazers are nothing.
Mhm.
The Warriors are diseased. The Bulls beat the Warriors last night.
Yeah. I just also
Leonard
don't
Miller.
want to totally. I'm clearly doing too much flip flopping on this team. We all are, watching it. They're
It's
extremely confusing. But 2 games ago, I felt like this team was in a really good place, and maybe I was naive in thinking that. But I don't know.
The Toronto game.
Yeah.
If you could emboss that and keep it and bring it out for certain moments, that's
Right.
what you want. That team, especially in the second half, was what you want with that personnel on that roster, doing almost
Mhm.
everybody was doing the right thing. They were moving the ball. They were defending. They were flying around without being undisciplined. Randall and Ant were full participants at both ends of the court, especially in terms of ball movement on offense. And it just...
So if we know that comes and goes, then why is this team so confusing? Shouldn't we just expect that?
Well, that was my argument a week ago, but at the same time, it's very hard because it's kind of like when you watch a movie and you think what's going to happen, like in the end, especially if it's a rom-com or something, they're going to kiss at the end. But I mean, like a murder mystery, like who's going to, you kind of think but you're wrapped up in the plot. You're wrapped up in the performances.
Mm-hmm.
And do I think the Wolves will be a much better team in the playoffs, regardless of who they play? Yes. Do I think that they will get past the first round almost regardless of who they play? Part of me thinks yes. I mean, if you said to me yes or no,
right.
I would
50,
say yes.
50. Yeah.
But you got 16 games remaining, and there's some really interesting drama here. And the performances, as always, the good guys and the bad guys will be interesting to watch how the plot twists.
Today's show is brought to you by Rula, R-U-L-A, and Rula is online therapy that won't break the bank, and that's because Rula works with most major insurance plans, making it so sessions can cost as little as $15, in some cases even $0, depending on your benefits. For me, I'm really grateful for my experiences with therapy. They've helped me make sense of things in life that don't make sense. We've got a lot going on. Keeping our heads clear as possible is the best thing we can do for ourselves. I know for me, in hindsight, there were other times in my life where I'm sure seeing a therapist would have helped me get through that difficult time better, more easily, but there were barriers to entry then. Having fast, affordable access to the right therapist, that would have made a difference for me. And that's where Rula comes in now. Rula makes therapy simple, affordable, and fast. They work with most major insurance plans. Again, the average session copay is just $15. That's basically the cost of lunch, but instead of a sandwich, you're investing in your own headspace. Thousands of guys have already used Rula to finally get the care they need Don't keep putting it off. Go to Rula.com/DaneMoore and get started today. That's RULA.com/DaneMoore. Take the first step, get connected, and take control of your mental health. Today's show is also brought to you by Thrive Market. And when we are ordering groceries this time of year, we are using Thrive Market and our membership there to get groceries delivered straight to home. I love it because it only costs $5 a month. Thrive Market is a membership-based grocery service where you can shop from wherever you are simply by hopping on their app. And the membership breaks down to just $5 a month, giving members access to weekly sales, personalized shopping, and peace of mind, knowing there's no junk in any of the products that they carry. Instead of paying, fees on every grocery order delivered, you pay once for the year and benefit from them every time you shop. And there's no trade-off for good tasting food. These memberships give me access to brands and flavors I never see in my local store, but I've discovered a lot of things that I like that I hadn't tried before. There's peace of mind in your shopping. You're paying a small monthly fee to offload the stress, research, and decision fatigue of eating healthy, and you can try it risk-free. I pay $5 a month, so I don't have to think about anything, any of the ingredients I'm going to be consuming. And there's no hidden fees at Thrive. I could spend way more on delivery fees or just pay $5 a month for Thrive Market and my membership there. I'm using this. I think you should try it out too. If you're ready to make some healthy swaps and become a member, join Thrive Market with my link, thrivemarket.com/DaneMoore for 30% off your order plus a free $60 gift. I don't remember who I was talking to about this. Might have been you in the media room, but I was thinking like the Wolves don't ever have the games where you go, they played pretty well. The other team played really, really well too. And they lost by 3. Like,
Right.
Okay. Like, good game. They lost.
They had more of those. I remember that's usually when I get in fights on Twitter. Where I don't. Both teams have played well, and I go, played well. Other team played better. So,
it feels now that when both teams, because they have played well and they've played against teams who have played well too, that they won those games.
Yes, but it can also be the other way.
Right.
Those are the games I like the best.
Right.
I love two teams playing well, having it be a close game, and however it goes, it's really entertaining.
Like maybe you could say that Spurs game, but the Wolves were also down by 25 at halftime in that Spurs comeback game that ended up being close. And there's been a few.
If I looked at the schedule now, I'm sure I could point
I don't know, man. I was going through it. It's like there's not. I don't. It could be too close to it. Whatever.
That Clippers game without Kawhi, they didn't play well.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's a prerequisite to this
play well,
standard. Yeah, or like good. I don't know. Like.
The Thunder games.
I'm saying they played really well and they won those games. Yeah. I'm not saying the Wolves never play well.
No,
they just
no. What I'm saying is that
they rarely play well and lose, even by close.
The Thunder game they won recently. That was a good game both sides.
I agree. I just think you're missing the premise of what I'm saying. A game where both teams play well, both sides, and the Wolves lose. I feel like that doesn't
right.
That doesn't happen.
Actually, it was on Christmas Day, wasn't it?
The overtime game against Denver?
They lost that game.
Yeah.
But they both teams.
Okay, that'd be one. I mean, they also left the floor. You know what I'm saying? It's just like not a feeling of like you go to the locker room or the thing's over and you're like, that's
come
all
up with 2 or 3. Your point is granted.
Yeah. I don't know. I try to, in my coverage of the team, try to be like aiming at what is happening. What we're talking about, like what is actually happening.
Discouraging season.
I know it's hard. So I'm saying
and you know why? You do 4 podcasts a week.
Right.
I only have to come in and review a week's worth.
Right.
But it is.
But what got me thinking about it was the pod that you and I did last week. I listened to part of that yesterday, being like, or maybe it was this morning after they'd lost both the games. I'm like, we've done this a lot where a week ago, you and I come on and we talk about this and, you were doing a little bit of skepticism of they're the third best team, but we lauded the team.
Yeah.
For 70 minutes.
Laudatory.
I thought so at the time.
They were in the middle of a 5-game winning streak.
I feel like we're doing this thing where you're like, okay, the 5-game winning streak, they're back. They're good. Here we go. Settled in. And then this happened. So I feel like I'm missing the mark then by careening as far as I do.
I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that the context is a higher bar context. So if this team did not have back-to-back finals appearances, and you were looking at this team and losses that just happen over the course of a season become more forgivable if you're thinking, if this team doesn't make the finals again, there may be some retooling that happens on the roster. It may be a different thing. Whereas 2 years ago, if they had lost to Denver in the second round, it still would have been a successful season at that point, I think. They would have lost to the defending champs, you know, on the road. They finished with the third best record and took a big step forward with Cat and Rudy, and it would have been this thing. Now, I think conference finals is what Tim Connolly and Chris Finch think is the standard. And that's Finch's justification for ignoring the kids. That is Connolly's justification for punting, you know, different people off the roster and consolidating.
What's that part?
Getting the right. Well, I mean, both Slow-Mo and Io, I think are you know, win now. It's definitely a win now.
I get what you're saying
environment.
now. Yeah.
And so, and hence also, you know, all the contracts that got signed, Nas and Randall over the offseason. It clearly is meant to be, as Connolly likes to say, if you're at the table, if you're at the Final Four table, then, you know, you have the right to go out and keep spending and doing whatever is possible to win now.
So how often are teams that are genuinely at the table, which we're calling like maybe 4 or 5 teams in the league, how often is that caliber of team this volatile?
I don't know. See, because we're not, I never cover a team as diligently as I cover the Wolves.
Right.
They're perhaps beat writers for like people who are chasing the Warriors, you know, the last 4 or 5 years.
I was thinking of the Cavs, like teams who have won a championship and are going to repeat. I think this team has threads of that, of like inconsistent effort because you know, because you've been there, but like the Wolves haven't actually been there. They've just been in the Western Conference Finals
over the last 4 years or so.
Yeah,
they've had their, you know, the Sixers certainly. I mean, the Celtics weirdness. I mean, it does seem to happen more in the East. I don't know. I mean, I understand what you're saying. I do think that we have to acknowledge, as I said, Basketball Reference has this thing, a franchise index, where you can look at all the won-lost records, the entire history of the team, and you can hit winning percentage thing to find out where the current team is in winning percentage. Their winning percentage is like 615 right now or something. 61.5. It's the 4th best in their history.
Yeah. But that's kind of like when I broke my ankle and was in a walking boot in college, that's when I would have submitted my worst mile time. And then when my ankle healed and my body was functional, I ran faster.
But they had 7 straight playoff appearances with KG, and only 3 of those seasons were better.
Okay.
You know, or actually 2 of those seasons, because they're 4th best, and one of them was the 2 years ago. So the majority, they're playing better right now than the majority of the KG playoff seasons. Again, and having covered those seasons, I remember the difference is they never got past the first round except for the final one in 03-04. But
that would have been the only year that they really had conference finals expectations, though, correct?
Yes, the goal was obviously to get past the first round. People didn't get, people were angry.
I remember that as a kid.
There were serious considerations about trading KG because he couldn't win the big one. He couldn't win the middle-sized one, for that matter. And, you know, because he was too unselfish, didn't take the big shots. Barkley was on his case, just the whole, 9 yards. And then he goes as soon as wins a ring immediately when they trade him. So the point being, this is back-to-back finals. The only other team that can say the conference finals, the only other team that can say that is Indiana, who's currently tanking like crazy. And OKC obviously is going to face this and is kind of facing it now. But right now, the fan base that's having the most fun right now, with the possible exception of the Celtics, who are getting this unbelievable bonus, is the Spurs. They're just way ahead of time. And
on the ride up is always
up is always, what I call it, the crystallization of goodness, the being able to say, oh, this is why we're good. Not only that we're good.
2023-24 for the Wolves, the defense.
You just go, oh.
And Ant. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And now that's baked in.
Sure.
We have the 9th best defense. Ooh, that doesn't sound that great.
Right.
And Rudy's a year older. On the other hand, 40-25, 15 games over 500.
Mm-hmm.
Now, again, the schedule is tougher down the stretch. So they have to continue to play 61.5% to meet that standard. And I don't think they will. I think they'll probably wind up with maybe 50 wins. That would be 10-6.
Oh, wait, what's the exact record today? They
40 and
are
25.
40-25. Sorry, you just said that.
So they'd be 10-7. They have 17 left. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I think they'll be like 10-7, which is 50-32. I called them for 40.
I think it'll be better than that.
Yeah, well. But that presupposes that they don't
I know.
do
Well,
this.
you hear it in my voice. I mean, like, I'm just saying if I had to bet, I'm betting the over on 50, I think, but I don't I wouldn't bet if I didn't have to bet,
You know what scares me, since we're just kind of talking out loud right now? New Orleans on the final game of the season.
Nothing to tank
Well,
for.
I mean, Zion just kills this team. And a lot to play for, probably.
DeAndre Jordan's
Home
last game of his career.
Home game. And the Pelicans are always better on paper than they've been on the court this season. It just sets itself up.
They're winning games now.
Bro,
I don't know what the record, but just by opening
they
up
got
box
a new
scores.
coach, and they got youth, the Queen, and the other guy, Fears. Yeah. So last game of their season, nothing to lose. It could be consequential loss.
No. You got anything else random?
No.
Nothing?
I think it'll be an early one for us, won't it? An hour?
Yeah, we're at like an hour and 5. All else I have written down here just from my notes
Yeah.
from the game last night was Highland as a legitimate bench spark in the second half. Maybe that's because he was the only thing going.
He
for
might
the
have been
Wolves.
levining.
Yeah,
Terrence
but
Shannon Jr. was. Did you?
that's my next one. That's my next one. One of those quote maybe not nothing garbage time performances from Shannon. Those are my last two things I had written
4
down.
for 6 on the floor, being able to.
That's part of the reason why Randall didn't play as many minutes, by the way, too. Like,
Yeah.
TJ came in the fourth quarter with like 8 minutes to go
Yeah.
when Julius would have normally came back in.
Right.
But
Yeah,
it was a
but that
18
has
point
never
game.
stopped Finch from
Yeah.
getting Randall his minutes in the past. Somebody's hot. Well, okay, good, but it's now.
Yeah.
Talk to Johan Berenger about that.
Also back to back. I don't know. if
Yeah,
there
no,
was
I agree. That's actually what I maybe even tweeted it out, that it should be early garbage time tonight because the starters don't have it, and you got a game tomorrow.
Mhm.
But Terrence Shannon Jr. is going to have to show me a lot more before I buy that stock again. And I think the more I thought about the slow-mo minutes, having been proven wrong that Finch is going to rely on him more, the more I think when push comes to shove, it's Bones that gets the shaft. And so that could be consequential, that Bones did come in and hit some threes and everything.
Well,
The wavy celebration bothered Grant Hill.
I saw that. The Bones role is pretty much limited to the non-Ant minutes. That's what the role is. Maybe sometimes there's an overlap of a minute or two here.
Well, that also benefits Slow-Mo because Slow-Mo needs the ball in his hands to be at his best. So you kind of want him on the floor without Ant.
Yeah. And I think
and you want him to be kind of like the point guard.
And maybe like we also don't even know if like Slow-Mo's good or anything yet, but we're going off of Finch's behavior of how he's using him.
Yeah.
He is using him in a far greater variety than Bones Highland. And I think if anything has been a corollary to more bench minutes in the Finch era, if you're a bench player, it's versatility. Like that's how you end up getting up to like 20 some minutes in a game where he can just go, whatever. Io has 3 fouls. Kyle, you can't do that with Bones. You need to be kind of conscientious who's out there or Yohan,
especially if there's a dynamic scorer in the perimeter that can't be guarded by somebody else.
Yeah.
No, I get that. I also think that pace. I'm remain a big proponent of pace, and I know what the stats say. The eye test says that Kyle is not fantastic at that, but the stats are what they are. They did not play, I think, with sufficient pace last night.
Because they just kept falling in the net, man. They just ran a zone and they ran into the zone and they got their feet tangled up in the zone and then they fell over or tried to pass it to Rudy and he fell over.
Yep, that's
like it's just it. I mean, Bones was his little spark in the second half.
I agree because he could shoot over the zone,
and because they weren't loading up on him in the same way it was Ant. Like he's playing the Ant minutes there, but they're not bringing that third defender rotated over for. So Bones just does this little right hand straight line drive, reaches his right arm out far, and he can beat guys in one-on-one situations.
But he was also hitting threes that were nobody else had that room. To your point,
yep. And so I mean he's a nice piece. He is the 9th man, and Kyle's the 8th man. Or that's
I agree
for sure. What early indications?
Yes, I would agree with that.
Are there? So
yeah.
All right.
So there we go.
Bones had a good spark.
A nice revelation at the end.
Yeah, there you go.
Folks who stuck around, we've determined the bottom of the rotation.
Yeah, there you go. It's as if we haven't talked about it for hours this year. You're writing tomorrow after the Clippers game?
Yeah, late game, early morning, but I'm due. I haven't written since the beginning of the week last week. I went to Milwaukee, saw an August Wilson play. It was great.
Sweet. Well, I'm interested to see what angle that column ends up taking.
I know. Well, I mean, unfortunately, whenever I think I'm going to write about something and wait a game, this is the Timberwolves. This is the Timberwolves experience. It could be that it'll reinforce a lot of what we talked about tonight, or it could be that I begin to talk about they did this and this is what they could be, or what they usually are when they're good.
Yeah. But that in and of itself is an interesting choice for you of like, do I feed this? If they play well against the Clippers tonight, which very may well do you go, okay, here it is. This is what it looks like when they're good. Because frankly, I already know what they look like when they're good. I want to know, is that who they are, or is the Lakers game?
How many times have I written this year, though, that the Wolves have an attitude problem, that the Wolves have a character issue?
Yeah, a lot.
I mean, I could write it again tomorrow. I could write it in a week. I could write it right up until the opening night of the playoffs, and then we'll find out if that extends. But I believe that the Wolves have a character issue or an attitude problem all year. I think it stems from back-to-back playoff experiences. I think it comes from the personalities of the two leaders, Randall and Ant, both in different ways, have an arrogance about them that helps both of them in terms of their play and elevates their play, but also hurts their approach to the game, I think, at times. And I do wish there was better leadership, adjunct leadership. I think that, Mike Conley is on the team now because of that. I think Kyle Anderson was brought in because of that, which isn't to say that Ant can't be the leader of the team, but people lead in different ways. There are different types of leadership. And there is the Rudy type of leadership, but that can't be. Rudy is too doctrinaire in the way he leads.
Yeah, for it to resonate.
You need to take the edges off the way Rudy leads with a Mike Conley or Kyle Anderson kind of shaving that, Rudy is such a literalist that he doesn't leave a lot of room for nuance when he says things.
Yeah. Which makes him just a fascinating fit on an Anthony Edwards team. Well, I'm looking forward to that column. Y'all can read that over at MinPost. And you can, of course, hear Britt on the show. We record on Wednesdays or Thursday. He's kind of the utility piece in the schedule every week. Appreciate you coming into the studio, man.
My pleasure.
And when's the next home game?
17th, is it?
Really? So they go Warriors.
Is it Phoenix? Or who they play? Houston or Phoenix first?
Oh yeah. So it goes at Warriors on Friday, at Thunder on Sunday, which we'll see you all at Treasure Island for, and then back home for the Suns on Tuesday, home for Jazz on Wednesday, home for Blazers on Friday before the Boston game.
Okay, yeah.
So
yeah,
important stretch coming up.
Yeah, no, and they're big games, and there's a nice sprinkling of should be wins and competitive games.
I did notice that the Utah Jazz, who they play, have the same offensive rating as the Wolves since February 1st. To your point there, so
they have to tank on defense. Then
that's true. They are. All right. Coming up next will be Kyle and I on Thursday morning. We'll talk about what goes down in the Clippers game on Wednesday night. That will be the next episode. Until then, he's Britt. I'm Dane. Peace out.
How I'm feeling, man, I hope it never stop, yeah.